Hi, this is Sam Cohen. This is the second requested TEDx Bushwick video. My full outline of my proposed talk is on my Google Doc at the bottom. I'm going to jump right in at part 3 for this short situation. I would previously go over my introduction and some basic structural notes about the NYPD, about police-community tensions, and about the ways that policing is changing and our expectations of police are changing. But here I'm going to get right into how a lot of our current tensions between police and communities were really engendered in New York by efforts to limit corruption. So we know that police corruption isn't desirable, but why isn't it desirable? Well, there are different reasons for different sorts of corruption. Police accountability scholars really identify two main sorts of corruption. There's meat-eater corruption, where police are actively seeking graft, they are seeking bribes, they are going out and shaking people down, and there's grass-eater corruption, which is when police just take what's given to them. So meat-eater corruption, it's obvious why it's bad. It's police using their authority for personal gains, it undermines the credibility of the system, and it puts innocent people at risk. But why is it so bad for police officers to take free stuff that people offer to them? It doesn't seem so bad, and if people want to show gratitude, why not? Well, the main reason it's bad is that it leads to disparities in policing. I like to use the donut shop example. If there are two donut shops on opposite sides of the street, one of them gives police officers free donuts and coffee, and the other one doesn't. The one that gives the police officers free donuts and coffee is always going to have a lot of cops at it, where the other one is not necessarily going to. And consequently, the one that gives the officers free donuts and coffee is a lot less likely to be robbed than the one that does not, because this one always has police there. And so robbers who are interested in robbing a donut shop for whatever reason are likely to go and rob the other one. And so when it's allowed, grass-eater corruption leads to a lot of distortions in enforcement. There are relatively few actively dirty, the Shield-style corrupt cops, but who doesn't like free food? Anyone can be a grass-eater cop, so grass-eater corruption really can be more destabilizing than meat-eater corruption for the communities that are being policed. So the way the NYPD chose to deal with that was to make a rule in the year 2000, which I'd get into more detail in, you can see more detail in the outline, that absolutely forbids police from accepting gratuities of any kind. This is a bright line rule. It makes it clear what's forbidden and what isn't, and no one can argue with it. So there's a lot more detail about that I would get into. I would also get into the current oversight mechanisms that the police have internally and also externally for dealing with disciplinary issues. But I would also go over the problems with those oversight mechanisms and the problems with police culture that lead those oversight mechanisms to be less effective than they could be. So in summing up the problem, there is a punish-only methodology of police accountability that's being used today, and it's not effective. Particularly in low-income and developing areas like Bushwick, there is police internal resistance. There is a growing sense of an us versus them mentality that police hold about the communities that they're policing. And it leads them to use more force and to potentially abuse their powers in these communities more because they don't feel there's any benefit to be had from being good to these people. And so a proposal. My proposal, in short, is that I want us as a city to be able to buy a cup of coffee for a good cop. The NYPD had good reasons for banning gratuities, but these good reasons have led to bad effects. As we've seen at Burning Man, gifting is a key part of human interaction, and it's a wonderful way to create a shared community among people. And so giving citizens back the ability to give small gifts to police will help to bridge the us versus them divide between police and civilians. And this would be, in any event, a corollary and not a replacement to existing discipline and oversight. The program that I envision and that I propose is based on consumer rewards points programs like your Dwayne Reed points, prepaid gift cards, and to some degree Yelp. The system would have two parts. There would be for civilians, there would be a web page or a phone app that would allow them that would mediate the giving process. Officers would receive cards that ideally would be essentially prepaid debit cards that are replenishable. And gifts would not be given directly. The system would be loosely anonymous, and I would get into more detail in the systematic nature of this in the actual talk and the controls on both sides. But we would limit personal contributions to $25 per person per year, somewhere around there. And we would limit the amount of information that officers would have about who is giving them gifts to, say, a limited geographic area, that you find out that someone on this block has put you down for a free cup of coffee. So together, we hope to create a set of checks and balances that would prevent favoritism or lead to corruption. This would not be a perfect solution, but my work has shown me that we're not going to improve relations between police and the community by only punishing the bad cops, and that we need to foster community engagement by police to give police positive incentives to act properly in the communities that they're policing. This proposal would give communities like Bushwick a practical, effective way to recognize and reward cops for doing good, and it would reward them for going beyond the minimum that's required of them. An incentive program is one way to do this, but we should be thinking about other ways. And until then, I'll just keep suing these bastards. Thank you.